Hi, it's Clark on Temptress. Today I'm going to talk about the Orca system. It's navigation aids that are a bit different than what you've seen. It's kind of a middle layer between do-it-yourself OpenCPN and full-on buy a Garmin and just put it in place. And I think it's got an interesting position. The guys at Orca contacted me literally months and months ago and asked me, can they send me their stuff? Would I take a look at it? And, looked like a fun toy. I really did want to take a look at it. So I said, sure. And they sent it. And I feel a little guilty. It's been so long since I've talked about it, but I'm having trouble figuring it out because I'm not on the boat. I told them that I would do an initial review of it, and I'm qualified to do that now. I've done research and played with it enough. But the real video will be when I get to the boat in the fall. I'm going to be installing this on Temptress. Definitely going to install this. I think it's pretty cool. But let's talk about what it is. I'm going to open it up so we get to look at it. This is kind of the heart of the system. This is their... what do they call it? The Orca Core 2, just meaning they had an Orca Core 1 before, and this is the upgraded version. You mount it on your boat so that it can be exposed to the sky. If you have a fiberglass boat, you could just like glue it to, the ceiling of the boat somewhere in a cabinet. Why you need the exposure is because it has a GPS in it, really nice one. It has what we refer to as 9 axes of freedom when you get into things like drone chips and stuff in the hardware. But what it boils down to is it has 3 axes of magnetometer. And you put those all together, you can say north is that way. And that's really good. Except magnetometers are slow and things affect them, metal moving around. So you use that more as a kind of a repair for the signal you get from 3 axes of gyros. These are actually spinning gyros and they can feel changes in rotation, including that rotation. So between the two of them, you've got a really fast, really accurate compass. Also, angles of tilt and such. And then finally, there's 3 axes of accelerometer, and that can tell changes in velocity. And with all that information, there's a lot you can do. Years ago, I designed my own autopilot, right from bare board. I never finished the project, partly because I got it pretty close, ready to go, but it wasn't done yet, and I really wanted to go sailing, so I bought a Garmin and off I went. But mostly because that Garmin was almost as good as the design that I had, at least my image of how it would have been. It got me really deep into boat electronics, what's really going on, and I can see how useful something like this could be. But what it really does is hook to the rest of your system. So obviously you give it 12 volts power. I believe you can give it all kinds of different voltages, but check the manual. And hook this to your NMEA 2000 system. Also in this box is a lot of really good communication. So it can take all the information on your NMEA 2000 and transmit it on the internet if you have a router and an internet connection on your boat. So you could, for example, if you had a bilge sensor, you could see that bilge sensor from your house 1,000 miles away. It would be your link to the NMEA system. Also, and this is kind of its number one thing, it takes all of that information and makes it available to other items that are either on the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi network on your boat. Why that's important is the other end of their product is software. They have a chart plotter that you can run on an Android device or on a Apple device. Your tablet can be a repeater and a chart plotter for all the instruments on your boat. I see a lot of people doing that now with software that's available for their phone, and it makes me cringe because they just have like this one phone, and one wave hitting your phone hits that USB-C port and now you can't charge your phone anymore. So once that battery goes dead, you got no navigation. I personally think the electronics, if you're going to rely on them and you're not a sextant guy, have to be very marine proof. This lets you have, obviously, and you could do this the other way too, but you can have this software on multiple like old phones you've owned and stuff. So that gives you a certain amount of redundancy. But if you wanted to go whole hog into this, they have this. And what this is just the best tablet for a boat I've ever seen. It's not cheap, it's not light, it's really heavy. And the reason it's so heavy is it's probably all battery. Basically, I think there's 3 ways to do navigation on your boat. Well, of course, there's paper charts, and there's sextant, and there's the old way of doing it, which arguably everybody should have and everybody should know how to use. But we're all going to want to do it the modern electronic way, of course. And I see 3 layers to that. I see the buy a ready-made system at West Marine from Garmin or whoever, put it in your boat, hook it together, pay money for it, and they're not cheap. Pay money for all the components that hook to it, they're not cheap. Buy the charts, they're not cheap. But then you've got a system that is very waterproof. You know, I expect mine to take waves and be fine. I expect to be able to rely on it. That's a way to go. Another way to go is the other end of the spectrum. You take a system of open source type software, like OpenCPN, I guess, is very, very well known and is doing well. I haven't used it because I have some really old software for computer type use of charts that I've had since the 90s, and it's still fine because the charts haven't changed, right? The rocks basically haven't moved. So I still use that a lot because it gives me charts for places I don't have charts for, and honestly, my early cruising was with it, so I have all my tracks, so I know where I can take Temptress's keel and be okay. But if you wanted to go like whole hog into the open captain part, I mean, obviously you can run it on a laptop, but people are building these whole boat systems based on Raspberry Pis, and that's really cool. But now you got to figure out, how do I make the display waterproof, or do I only look at the charts when I'm down below? That kind of a deal. You have to also figure out how to integrate it into the other components you have. Like, how do you hook your computer with Apt and Captain into your NMEA system so you can see how fast the wind is blowing? Well, Orca seems to have done something sort of in the middle. They've built this system around a device that can be hooked to the NMEA. That's this core, they call it. And it has really good, as far as I can tell, Bluetooth radio and Wi-Fi. It seems to be able to connect to multiple things simultaneously. It's on its own little router. So you can hook this to your whatever you're using for internet, and then this will have internet available on the boat. Their charting system, and I'm using right now their tablet. It's very expensive as tablets go, but it's very durable. It's quite waterproof to the point where it has induction charging, so you don't have to worry about if your USB port got corroded. You could still use this thing. I think it is probably more waterproof than my Garmin, in that the Garmin's chip container is just the same kind of a little rubber seal dealy. And if you lose the chip, you lose the chart, so it's of no good to you. So I think this one is actually a step better in protection. It's crazy, crazy bright. If you crank this up, you can see it in the full-on Florida sunlight. I just went out and did it, and not a problem seeing it at all. It is quite heavy, and the reason it's so heavy is it's like all battery. I understand that even at a reasonably bright brightness, you can run this thing for like 8 hours without charging it. And of course, you can always run a wire up or do the induction charging thing. I think they sell an induction charge stand, but there are a lot of cell phone induction chargers out there that should work with it. It has charts. Their chart model isn't by the charts, it's subscription. I'm always leery about subscription services, but I did check with them. If you start this process, you probably won't buy this. You'll probably do it on your cell phone or your own tablet until you decide you like it, and then maybe you'll step up to this. If you don't buy the subscription, you get access to all the charts, but only while you're connected to the internet. So, that'll let you play. If you pay for the subscription, you get the charts downloaded and they stay on your device. Great. And I believe the routing is better. And I understand their routing is really stellar. It looks like it should be. Get into that a little later. The actual quality of the charts, I don't think they're 100% there yet. Where their charts are good, their charts are very, very good. But for example, my boat right now is in Luperon, and I look up Luperon here, and you wouldn't even think of going into Luperon with the charts they offer. So they still have holes. They're still filling in. But if they cover the area you need, you're good. If they don't, well, they don't. Right now, this probably wouldn't be your only chart on the boat. You would either have paper charts, or you would have above Garmin level thing, or below, not that it's below, but Open Captain, that level of thing. Where you would use this is probably more of I want a portable command unit that I can adjust the autopilot from and all that kind of thing. Or where I think I'm going to use it is when I'm planning. And why that's so cool is because, and I haven't seen this from anybody else. You tell me in the comments if anybody else is doing this yet. But you can enter the polars for your boat. And what the polars are is essentially a graph that says, in this amount of wind, this boat can go off the wind at this speed and perpendicular to the wind at this speed, and pinching up, it can pinch this far and go this fast. And then you have like different lines for every amount of wind. Well, it takes the polars. If you're connected to the internet, it gets the weather. It looks at the weather ahead of time, because your trip might be a 2-day trip. It will look ahead of you a couple days and find out what the weather will be where it expects you to be. And it knows your boat's draft, and it knows the charts, and it puts it all together, and it gives you a course, even showing like where you're likely to have to tack to work yourself upwind, how fast you're going to go in those conditions. Like if the first day it was going to be 15 knots of wind, it would think you can go a certain speed, and then for a day it was going to be 8 knots of wind. It would actually know that you're going to go slower. Every chart plotter planning thing I've ever used, I have to tell it how fast my boat is. And I usually say 5 knots. Temptress is always significantly faster than 5 knots, it seems. So I get there early, but I think it would just be so cool to have something that could take that extra step. So I'm really excited to have this on my next crossing and play with it. It does another thing that's kind of interesting that's like internet related. And like when you're making a crossing, this might sound like, why would I be able to do that? But in the world today, for example, I have Google Fi phone as my main connection to data while I'm out sailing. And whenever I get anywhere near an island and I have the reception, and then I also have some other devices that give me very long reception for cell phone connections, my Google Fi picks up, I get data, and the data is now available on my system. That gives me the internet whenever I'm close to an island without checking in, without buying a chip. The other thing that people are doing now, of course, is Starlink, which just means you have the internet everywhere. Well, like I said, if you have the internet and you have this system, you're going to know the weather, which is great, and it's going to use the weather to help you out. But another thing it'll do is, as far as AIS, and AIS is, of course, how you find other boats around you and what direction they're going, and it lets chart plotters decide if there's a collision about to happen or even a danger of one. It's quite a handy thing to have. If you have a AIS on your boat, at least the receiver, and it's transmitting out on the NMEA, this will pick it up, and then this guy can know the boats that are inside of your range. But if you're connected to the internet, a lot of places in the world have AIS receivers connected to the internet that broadcast like the whole ocean and every boat that's out there. So this guy can show you boats that are outside of range. Those boats could be big ships that you really, really want to avoid. So it just seems like another layer of coolness. It does overlays of radar for some radars. And sadly for me, I don't think it's going to be able to do mine. And it's not this guy's fault, it's Garmin's fault. Garmin's radar doesn't seem to be retransmitted over NMEA in any usable way. I have to plug the radar directly into my chart plotter, and I actually have two Garmin chart plotters, and it looks to me, I haven't actually plugged it together yet, but it looks to me that I'm only going to see radar on the primary chart plotter, which is just sad in the Garmin world, but also it means that, you know, other things can't pick it up. But I believe most of the other radars do this differently, where the radar is actually transmitting its signal, probably not over NMEA. I believe it's going over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and then this guy can pick it up and make it available to its own chart plotters. Well, that's my first look into something that I think has some potential. I'm sorry that I'm not to the point right now where I can tell you, buy it, don't buy it, here's what's good about it, here's what's bad about it. That'll come, because I'm going to use it. But right now, all I can say is I think it's got a lot of potential, and I'm happy to have it. Well, that's my unboxing video of the Orca system. Bye from Clark on Temptress.